PTF and JK back with you to talk about our 10 personal favorite Preaknesses, maybe some of the best Preaknesses ever. What was your favorite Preakness? Let us know in the comments. JK, let's start this top 10 countdown.
Yeah, I'm going to work backwards with the ones that I love the most. And Justify's Preakness was interesting, right? I had him as the Derby winner. And whenever you bet the Derby winner, the Preakness has got a little bit more fun to it. You'll see that a little bit later with American Pharoah. But the drama of this race, if you'll remember the fog, you could barely see anything. And the NBC coverage, they were like behind the horses in the stretch for a while. You never really knew where the wire was. And it was desperately close for Justify to beat Good Magic. That'll be my fifth one. I'll get this thing started with Justify's Preakness.
I remember watching that with you out at Santa Anita. It was a great one. I'm reaching a bit further back for the first one I'm going to mention. This is Point Given. I was a huge Baffert fan back in this era. More on that in a bit as we go down this countdown. But for me, Point Given's run in the Preakness was really important because it was a bit of a redemption job. Gary Stevens famously moving early in that year's Kentucky Derby by his own admission. The question was this Point Given a hype job, or was he truly a great horse? He started to answer that question in the affirmative with this powerhouse run in the Preakness. Went on to win the Belmont and the Travers as well. Just a terrific horse, one of my favorites from that era. Used to enjoy when he was at Saratoga that summer, sneaking into the barn area and getting a chance to clap eyes on this beautiful red horse. Always loved Point Given. Got to put him up there for my number 5.
I'm going to go with the Tupac and Biggie, the Kendrick and Drake of the 80s, right? That was Sunday Silence and Easy Goer. I wasn't a racing fan at the time. I was only 7 years old. But knowing what I know now about these two horses, watching this stretch just hits a lot different for me, knowing how important it was to so many people who loved Easy Goer, who loved Sunday Silence, and to hear Trevor Denman's call in this race, I thought was outstanding. One of his best calls ever. Never in doubt the excitement that was that Preakness that Sunday Silence beat Easy Goer in.
We look forward to hearing your diss tracks that are going to be dropping soon, JK. The only question is you just have too many people to diss, so I don't know which direction you're going to go with that. Let's talk about a very memorable trip in the Preakness. I had taken a few years off of going and ended up going back to see Afleet Alex. And oh my goodness, this moment on the turn. I was up there in the clubhouse, was promoting a book at the time with some DRF colleagues, and I mean, there were audible gasps and cursing when Afleet Alex got knocked off stride around the turn. He absolutely was able to overcome that, though, straightening out, getting the victory there, heading to Belmont, and really showing his quality once again. Had that terrible trip in the Derby. Not unlike the first one we talked about with Point Given, this was a horse that might have been good enough under slightly different circumstances to win a Triple Crown. Big Afleet Alex fan here.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with American Pharoah. And look, I think a lot of the reason that he's this high on the list for me is because what he went on to do, right? To win that Triple Crown, to win the Grand Slam, and to be that horse that broke the 37-year drought. But I think that it was an exciting race, right? He was the Derby winner. He was the favorite, but it was pouring rain in this Preakness. And I think that even if for people that were interested in betting him, whether they were betting him in multi-race bets or betting him to win again, I think people were nervous about how he was going to handle it. He had kind of had everything go his way throughout his career. And how was he going to handle a little bit of adversity? He handled it just fine in an absolute downpour that, like, if it wasn't the Preakness, I feel like they might have canceled.
You clearly like rainy Preaknesses that were gone on to win by then Triple Crown winners. I'm sensing a pattern here, JK. You talked about the 37-year drought. Well, we thought a few years earlier that drought was going to be broken by a horse named Smarty Jones. So impressive in the Derby. Came back to Pimlico to do an absolute demolition job. And we all knew he was going to head to New York, a short priced favorite. But I just remember getting so excited. I was visiting friends, was at a house in upstate New York where we went to the local OTB to place bets and came back to watch Smarty Jones do this in the lane at Pimlico and thought he was going to go on to be the chosen one. And for a second there on the turn at Belmont, it looked like it might happen. The history had other ideas and we had to wait, but still very fondly remember this tour de force performance from Smarty Jones at Pimlico.
My second is going to be Curlin's Preakness. And this is like the middle jewel of the Triple Crown race call in my opinion. I thought that Tom Durkin absolutely nailed this entire Triple Crown. Street Sense winning the Derby, Curlin and Street Sense that you're seeing right here in the stretch. And then they come back, remember, and it was Curlin in Rags to Riches in the Battle of the Sexes. It was an outstanding Triple Crown in terms of race calls. I thought this was just so exciting. Street Sense is in deep water right before they got to the wire. It was an outstanding call by Tom Durkin. It was an outstanding race by two of my favorite racehorses of all time, Curlin and Street Sense.
Let's talk about Funny Cide. He was the upset winner in the Kentucky Derby, reversing form with Empire Maker, and then came to Pimlico. And this one for me, there was more going on than just the racing history angle I talked about before. I had a book deal in hand from Daily Racing Form that was only going to push the button on had he won the Preakness. If he wins the Preakness, I get this deal to have a book ready for should he then 3 weeks later win the Triple Crown. So it was, in a way, my biggest score. I had to work for it. I had to pull all the stuff together for the book, but I was looking at, a 5-figure hit with Funny Cide. So extremely excited was I when he just absolutely, another one that just tore things up down the lane at Pimlico, getting the job done. Got the money to put the book together. The book, of course, didn't come out because Empire Maker decided to show us who was boss in the Belmont 3 weeks later. But you can't take this giant win away from the ever-popular Funny Cide.
Well, as a New York bred, I can understand why Funny Cide was so special to you. But my number one, and it's not even close, is Rachel Alexandra. 2 weeks prior to her Preakness was the first time I ever stepped foot into Churchill Downs, where she won the Oaks by 20 lengths. And then to come back 2 weeks and to do what she did, and in hindsight, was even better than what I thought, right? She put away Big Drama, who went on to be a Breeders' Cup sprint champion, and she held off the Derby winner in Mind That Bird, Musket Man, and a few others. And I just can't think of a line from a race caller that embodies a moment more than anything that what Tom Durkin said, the filly did it. And it's exactly how I felt, and it's exactly how I feel every time I watch that race. Without a doubt, Rachel Alexandra's Preakness was my favorite Preakness.
It was great. And yeah, if we were doing this independently, probably my number one too. Just an amazing race. I joked before about you liking the Triple Crown winners in the rainy Preaknesses. Clearly, I have a thing for the 2 of 3 club, because we'll go to another one here in the form of Silver Charm, who was the horse that got me into racing, really, in many ways. That first horse I really loved and bonded with, was all over him in the Derby. This was also another personal angle. My first Preakness. I ended up, it was kind of funny, with like this obstructed view seat that I ended up selling to then go out on the infield. And this was back when the infield was the infield at Pimlico, the running of the porta potties and everything. I did not participate in that. Don't believe the rumors. But Silver Charm, this furious stretch drive, you know what's going to happen, and when you watch this tape, you don't know what's going to happen anyway until you see it. It was a crazy stretch run. Yes, I know Touch Gold had the trip in behind, and yes, he got his revenge 3 weeks later in a truly devastating sporting moment for me. But I'm going with Silver Charm for my number one most memorable Preakness. JK, can't wait to get down there to Baltimore and check out this year's Preakness, when we're going to make, hopefully, some more great memories on the racetrack for all the right reasons. We encourage you, once again, drop a comment. Let us know your most memorable Preakness, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, In the Money Media. Click that notification bell so you never miss any of our updates about the Triple Crown or horse racing throughout the year.